Scott with you. This week we have been looking at the end of the book of Revelation, and now we are looking at some current events that are occurring in our world that point us to the fact that Matthew 24 prophecies about the end days are certainly coming to pass. Today I want to focus on a recent event that occurred in the Far East, over in Indochina. It was a gathering of G20 political leaders. And before we get to some comments on that, you may have heard of the World Economic Forum. That's the WEF. They have been meeting over in Switzerland since their inception in 1971. They're now in their 52nd year of existence and meetings. And they really have been an organization headed up by a fella from the European continent who are promoting globalism. They have had an objective of international understanding, promoting human understanding in order to create a better world. Doesn't that sound altruistic? Over the years, they've gathered other organizations to work with them and to support them, and vice versa, such as the United Nations and the European Union, the World Bank, the World Court, the World Trade Organizations, and all the affiliated organizations that are part of those groups. And they come together, they hold these annual, or however often they meet. I'm not really up on the number of meetings they hold, but the most recent one was held in May of this year. And when they gather together, they've got political leaders, they've got business leaders, industrial leaders, educational leaders, and you just name it. They've got Hollywood celebrities and what I call wannabes who want to be seen with this group and want to rub shoulders with this group because they're on the cutting edge of the Great Reset. You've heard this term coming out of the political leaders in our nations, that it's time for the Great Reset, that we have to do things in a new fashion, in a new way. And of course, there's always reasons to do things in a new way that's a better way. But I don't believe that their objectives are the kind of objectives you and I want to be part of. In the recent G20 meetings, that's the governmental leaders from 20 leading countries in the world that just occurred in the last few weeks over in Indonesia. They invited the founder of the WEF, his name is Klaus Schwab, to speak to them and bring some updates to them. So here's some of the comments that came out of that meeting. They are looking for a reset of a universal, heavily regulated, post-national, post-religious world of a synchronized egalitarian toiling, which has become inevitable and infinitely desirable. Now, those are big words, but they're conveying the same thought all the way along, that they have a better way of doing things. They should be in charge. They want to reset the world system to be their system, which will be past post-nationalism, like nation. We'll lose our status as a nation, and post-religious, which means no more religion. We'll wipe that out because it's going to hinder us anyways. They advocate a complete reimagining of the Western world. That's where we live, in the Western world. They want to see our social, economic, and moral structures redefined. And what's interesting to me is that a lot of our political leaders are alumni and attenders of these conferences, including our Prime Minister here in Canada and our Deputy Prime Minister and the former Governor of our Bank of Canada. These are policy setters. How much are they being influenced by what they've heard in these meetings? I would suggest to you quite a bit when you see what they're doing and how they're doing it. Let me go on here with a couple more comments. These meetings, I would suggest to you, when I view them in light of the scriptures, these are meetings that lead to deception. They lead to mistruths, misrepresentations. They get us to focus on things that they're espousing as very, very out of whack and out of order that needs to be corrected. And yes, there's a lot of things that do need to be corrected. But is this the way we should be going? The Lord dealt with this in the book of Genesis chapter 11. And in that chapter, there's a group of men, there's a nation of men who are building a tower. It's called the Tower of Babel. Some call it the Tower of Babel, but B-A-B-E-L. And they say, we're going to build this up into the sky. It will be so great, it will be so large that the entire world will take notice of who we are. God said, no. Verse 6, he said, the people are one here, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do now. Nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. Verse 7, come, let us go down and let us confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. Verse 9, therefore, its name is called Babel, or Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over all the face of the earth. We're kind of at that realm right now when you see and hear who are part of the WEF, and when you get into hearing what they're all about and what they want to do and how they plan to do it, I would suggest to you that this is not on God's timetable for good, but it's on the Antichrist timetable for bad. In other words, it's a spirit of the Antichrist ramping things up. And for the most part, it goes unnoticed by the believer, by the church, but it's not unnoticed by God. He knows where they're heading, and he's about to say enough is enough. See you tomorrow. Thanks for joining. Amen. Bye.